Let's take a look at our Tandy 200 and see what's going on with it. This looks to be in pretty good shape. Case is fairly clean, it's not scuffed up. It says TMM R&D. Like the Model 100, it's got the memory power switch there. Looking here, it looks like we take 4 AA's there. So imagine this is the external RAM and external ROM slot. This has 2 external RAM modules in it that are marked Tandy. Okay, I have procured some batteries. So pop these guys in here. And it also has an external 6-volt input. On the Model 100, these are center negative and the barrel is positive. I imagine it's the same here. On the back, we have a bunch of I/O connectors. Let's open it up. It just lifts up. Hey, I see the screen already. It looks okay. Well, this was tough to find at an angle that didn't glare. And I'll find the contrast knob here. It's kind of hard telling on the camera here, but the background is quite dark there. There, it's so light you can't see it. Here I'm doing some repeated power on testing and testing repeatedly with the reset button to make sure it comes up each time. It's possible. The problem with this is the capacitors are breaking down after a while, that type of thing. So I downloaded the service manual for this, which somebody has nicely scanned, to figure out how to take it apart. I'm using a spudger tool like you use on a cell phone or tablet or something. Okay, after doing lots of research, which turned up nothing other than the service manual I already had, and doing a lot of futzing and cursing, found out that if you push right there in the middle and push down and then up, it comes right off. Easy peasy. In the manual they just say pull towards you, which doesn't really do it. And then there are 4 screws here which you take out, unplug the ribbon cable, and this whole LCD comes off. So let's do that. Yes, that cable just slips in there like so. Okay, got you zoomed out so you can see what I'm doing. The manual states to be very careful about which screws you put back in here, so I'm going to set them. They are indeed different lengths. 4 screws. The slightly longer ones go through the metal brackets. The slightly shorter ones just go through the plastic. So with that like that, I should just be able to, again according to the service manual, and just kind of tilt that and pop it off like that. Okay, one LCD screen off. Okay, there's 4 screws on the bottom. So tip those over to keep them from poking out. See what I'm doing. There is a screw in each corner. So what I'll do here is take these loose. Okay, how do we do that? Okay, it's never as easy as the manual says, is it? broken spudger to the rescue. So the top locks down onto the bottom. So I'm just sliding my sad little broken spudger under like this to release the two. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Making a mess. Alright, so now we have the top cover off, which there's not a lot to except for the springs for the screen. And now we have the circuit board. Okay, so we've got the keyboard. It has a little felt here. Other than collecting some detritus, it looks okay. Soft power switch here. It's got a little foam under the function keys, which looks okay. And rotate this around so I can see the keyboard cable here a little better. Ribbon cable connector that you lift up on the edges of. So try that. Okay. So there's, if you can see that, you lift up gently on the sides of this, and then the keyboard cable will be released. And this goes here. It's got cutouts to let you know which way. This is where you plug in your optional RAM and ROM cartridges. Battery compartment, speaker. A lot of this is the modem jazz and other I/O stuff. And so we'll have a close-up look now at the electrolytic capacitors and see if I can see any leaking or things like that. So here is a close-up on the board. I've taken this daughter card loose that has the optional RAMs and ROM socket on it, and I've taken the main board here loose so I can lift these out as a set. I noticed here by this diode, if you can see that, the camera will cooperate. There's some corrosion here, which looks like it just might have came in around this connector. The memory battery here, we can see it's starting to build up some corrosion too. So definitely at least need to clean up the corrosion. And okay, here's the other side of that connector, and there's a little corrosion right there too. Let's look at the bottom side of that. This is the same connector we were looking at on the other side, and you can see traces of whatever liquid that was. Got in right here. It's not really super bad. The worst is right here between R126 and this pin, which could be problematic in the future, so we'll clean that up. Okay, here is the bottom side of the board. You can see we have a lot of surface mount parts on here. You can see little blobs of red sticking out from under the chips, so they were glued on. And there's also several tantalum capacitors sprinkled around. It looks like there might be some corrosion hiding under that connector where it looked like there was some liquid intrusion. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that off there. Okay. I already put a little paste flux on here to make the solder reflow better. And we'll just unsolder all these pins. Give each pin a wiggle to make sure that it's still not stuck. Okay, I've got 3 there in a row, which feels stuck. So we'll apply a little more solder. Oh, no, my wrist strap. Now that looks pretty good. rest of these pins a little wiggle here. I'm probably blocking your shot. Okay. Oh, see there, we just fell right off. Alright, let's flip this over. Oh yeah. That was the right call. So as you can see, it's got a fair bit of corrosion under that connector. Looks like it was glued down. I don't see much under that. So I think we'll just clean up this area and that diode and maybe pull this one DIN connector off to make sure it didn't work under there too. Okay, I took off that DIN connector too, and get my finger up there in the shot. This looks all fine under here, so I don't think we need to go any further. Doesn't look like there's any corrosion past right here and kind of right here. And it looks similar on the back of this connector as well. It didn't really hit the pins, so we'll get all that cleaned up. Make sure we have a good electrical connection on our diode. Clean up that other spot on the board and replace the battery. I think over here, this is the power supply section. With a switching power supply that powers everything. There's probably at least a +5 and a -5, so I'll pull some of those off and test them to get an idea of what kind of shape they're in. Okie doke. Got a little bit of alcohol in a cup here, and a toothbrush, and some fancy Q-tips. I'm going to give this a scrub. Now the thing is, when you're doing this, you can't just scrub it and leave it there. You've got to wipe off the crud that you're breaking loose. So that's what the Q-tips and the rag will help do. The toothbrush just kind of helps break everything loose. No, that wasn't really bad at all. Q-tip. Okay, got that little spot on the back too. Be careful since we've got these boards still lashed together. Try to get this area. That looks really good. Now we'll use the second Q-tip. Okay, that's not too bad. Let's look at the front side again. Getting caught up on my wrist strap there. Okay, I've put a little flux on that corroded diode, and I'm just going to heat it up. That's a lot better.
Now I'm putting back all those connectors that I took off. First is the DIN connector. I'll solder one pin into place and then hold it from below to make sure it's flat and reflow that one pin. And then we'll do that parallel port connector. Just kind of hold it up into place while I'm doing the solder. Of course, after soldering, we'll go ahead and clean up that area with our toothbrush, alcohol, and some rags and cotton buds. Cleaning the board up after you're done soldering is the hallmark of a good repair.
Okay, now I'm going to turn my attention to taking the battery off and then pulling these caps one at a time and testing them. There we go. And it's marked on the board what polarity is what. Now, the caps and the power supply section here are the ones that work the hardest. So we're going to hold these one at a time and have a look at them and see what kind of condition they're in. There's a rather thick trace on the side, so give it enough time to heat up. Well, that fell straight out. Physically it looks fine. So hook up the leads. Now this type of tester isn't super accurate, but it's enough to give us a qualitative test to let us know if the unit is probably good. That says 0.52 ohms, 519 microfarads, and it's marked as 470, so that one's probably good. Let's have a look at the LCD here itself. Well, supposedly we slide that down like that, and what? That looks like it's as far forward as it's going to slide. Just gotta wiggle it just right. Okay. Here is the LCD board. Each one of these is a driver chip. See, there's a lot of them. Here's kind of a close-up. Really not much to it. So unless we needed to reflow the legs on one of these driver chips or something like that, there wouldn't be much to do. And this is where the ribbon connects right here. So like I did with the Model 100, I repaired, well, about a year ago I guess. I took the pages out of the manual and marked the capacitors I needed to replace. And then I came up with a color-coded capacitor map with the parts numbers on there for Mauser, and you can download this in the description down below. And then I took my parts bags and labeled them to match my capacitor map, so that way I'll be sure which capacitor goes where. Okay, we've got our board here. Let's start with A. And A is red, and it is right here. First, I will make sure that the negative is clearly marked. It is, and these two right beside it, B, these are non-polarized. All three of those are clearly marked what they are. Check the board, and it says the negative is on this side. So go ahead and pop him in there. Spread the legs out a little bit. A little bit of paste flux. A little bit of solder on your iron. The solder is what really helps out with the heat transfer. Put my finger over the lead when cutting it. It keeps them from flying everywhere. Okay, now the two B capacitors, which are right here, and they are non-polarized, so they can go in any direction. I'll put them in the same way, that way it looks like I knew what I was doing. Okay, I'll clean up our mess. Well, the memory backup battery came in today, so I soldered that in and I installed everything back in the case. I found it was easier to put this interconnection ribbon cable on, to connect these two boards together and then place everything in the case. And I have the keyboard rigged up underneath and the LCD plugged in so I can get a full load on the system and measure the power supply voltages, which I wish I would have done before replacing the caps. I've got my negative lead hooked up to the batteries there, and so we'll measure the battery voltage, 6.14, that's okay. Okay, here we go. So we have 5 volts, minus 5 volts, and here I think that's the minus 10 volts for the LCD. So everything seems to work. It's hard to see from your angle, but the LCD is on. And it might be my imagination. I believe the contrast is a little better too. So I'm going to take apart this rigging here and put the screws in the case and reassemble it, test it out. I got rid of the masking tape and held the wires in place with Kaptan tape. Remember, the original had some black vinyl tape like electrical tape. Now, made a mess there. Should have thought to do this earlier. And this switch. Just wanted to make one point about the keyboard. You notice I didn't take anything apart and clean it. That's because every switch is soldered to the board. So if you need to clean a switch, you'd have to desolder that switch and clean it. And some of the bits of like the space bar and here are heat staked in, so it could be quite a chore to clean up if you had to do that. Really odd design. There are no fasteners that connect the keyboard to the top shell. Okay, I had to spend a few minutes looking at this to make sure everything was right. I didn't recall from taking this apart that this keyboard is just resting on the circuit board below, and it's got some standoffs here that bear down on the circuit board itself, which is kind of a weird situation. You just kind of center it in there. I've got it plugged in here. Slip the display connector back up through there. Just kind of wiggle it, and it lines everything up, including the low battery LED. Got the clips here on the side. We got the front end, got this side end, that, and that side. Okay. That is snapped back together. I've separated the case screws. The 4 bottom screws are the same. I'm going counterclockwise till the screw drops into the threads. For the LCD, there are 2 different length screws. There's a slightly longer screw. Goes through the metal part in the hinge, or I should say through the hinge here into here, and the shorter ones just go there. Okay. So if you kind of tip the back end and pull it back out like that, that seems to work pretty well. So we'll go with the longer screws. This keyboard frame is a little fiddly. You gotta kind of hold it up into position while you get the screw started. There we go. Get that in here. Oopsie daisy. Okay, now the LCD connector. There we go, fairly gently. Oh, I want to zoom in on one thing right here. Be a little difficult to see right here, but these two little pieces across here was just a little spindly piece of plastic that this part of the cover latches into. I broke these guys off, but I glued them back on and let that sit overnight. And now I'll go ahead and pop this cover on and get you a good close-up on how to take that on and off. Okay, put this guy back on. You need to put this little foot down in this slot first. Tilt it up. Kind of push down on the bottom here. And just kind of wiggle it up. And it'll snap up in there. And to get this out of here, hold on to the sides, push in the middle, and pull down, and then tilt back. In the manual it says to apply pressure in the center and pull up. Well, that's stupid. It doesn't work that way. So, put it on there.
Here is a shot from the operator's perspective.
Okay, this is about as good as I can do on getting a shot of the screen without a lot of glare. And it's actually readable. Of course, LCDs didn't used to be that great. On camera it looks like it's showing up a little better, but here's the full darkness position. And that's full lightness where you can't see anything. We can go into basic. And I imagine we can enter a little program. And hit enter and run. Yep, it works. Okay. Shift brake. If you hit the brake pause key, it just pauses it, and if you hit the shift key, it'll brake it. Okay, that works.
I hope you've enjoyed this look at the TRS-80 Model 200 laptop. This unit was state-of-the-art in 1985, but well outside my budget at the time. It was nice of the owner to send this to me to have a look at, and we replaced the problematic memory backup battery with a new nickel metal hydride battery, and we went ahead and recapped it since we were in there. On these older TRS-80 Model 100s, 102s, 200s, etc., those memory batteries can cause problems, including stopping the machine from booting up properly. So, if you've got the original battery in there, it's time to replace it. Some other important things we learned were how to get this silly door off here. The service manual was completely wrong on that, and it took some investigation and a little patience, and even then, there was some minor damage which was repaired. I don't have all the peripherals for this unit to plug in and test to make sure all the ports work, but I imagine everything is okay. At least it boots up properly now, and the owner will have a chance to check everything out, and have some fun with it too. Say, if you're not already a subscriber, look down below. There's a rectangular button that says subscribe on it. Go ahead and click on that guy, and while you're at it, you'll see a bell-shaped icon there too. Click on that guy too, and that way, as soon as I post a new video, you'll know right away. You'll get to be one of the first to watch it. I sure would appreciate it. Well, until next time, bye.